Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing, with your hosts Glenn Thayer and the CEO of Intuitive Websites, Thomas Young.
All right. Well, folks, there's a first time here at Intuitive Websites. We're doing a Google Hangout on air and seeing what's going to be happening here. I'm Glenn Thayer. I'm here with Tom Young, the CEO of Intuitive Websites, and we're bringing to you this time around the power of simplicity. Now, as we know, we talk a lot about sales and marketing. There's a lot of new rules. As you know, in the past, or maybe some of you didn't know this, Tom has written sales books before. He's a published author. He's an expert when it comes to sales and marketing. So it just makes sense that obviously he's the CEO of Intuitive Websites. So today we're going to talk about what's new in the world of simplicity. From the Harvard Business Review, there was an infographic here. I think we'll probably get that onto the blog page for you. But Tom, let's really talk about simplification here, because I know when we start dealing with things online, it's convoluted. We talk all the time e-commerce. We tell people to go to Amazon. We tell people to go to Netflix and really look at that because it's very easy to use and intuitive. How was that proved in the Harvard Business Review article?
Well, the article is pretty straightforward, and they call it decision simplicity. And I really see this as a new trend in marketing. That's the idea that how easy you make it from people to research your product or service and buy from you is now the number one reason that they actually buy from you. I think companies like Apple have had a big impact on this. But this is really new to marketing, and it's the idea that if you can make things easier for the customer, simplify it for the customer, they're 86% more likely to buy than if it's perceived to be more difficult. And this is against competitors. And even more importantly, they're 115% more likely to recommend because they have such an easy channel now to recommend through social media and the internet and so forth. So these are big numbers, and they're really important. Now, the challenge, though, is that most marketers and a lot of companies have a real hard time making things simple. In fact, there's almost a paradox there that if you have a really cool, complex product, it's a really cool product, right? How do you make that simple? And so you're asking an engineer to make something simple, right? And you see that, when you open a new product and you start reading the instruction manuals, it's usually the number one place you see how hard it is to make something simple. Well, it's true in marketing. It's true in communications. It's true in messaging. And so, we think that it should be part of the strategy. In fact, the simplicity process should be integrated into your marketing plan and into your strategy. It takes courage and it takes brains. It takes a lot of direction from the marketplace because you can make something simple, but if it's off the mark, consumers aren't going to buy it, right? And as a rule of thumb, we tend to think that you should take three concepts and focus on three concepts about your product or service, highlight those on your homepage and on your website, and that's the starting point for this whole simplicity process.
Now, that goes back to what we've talked about for years, which is user testing. And that's
Yes.
really your user testing your interface, your user testing your web presence, anything that you're doing. This is the same thing. So if you're trying to make it simple, you have to do, once again, user testing.
User testing is critical, and user testing is really getting at what do customers want.
And what do customers want?
Well, they want direct and easy-to-read communication. They're inundated with information. They want information to help them solve their current problem or enhance the quality of their life. And that's what they're doing on the internet. And the big word here is convenience. So the more your simple message ties into the convenience of your customers, the better the results. They want to understand exactly what you do and how you do it better than others. They want a lot of detailed information that they can scan quickly and then dig deeper on. And they want pricing options. And pricing isn't so much about who's the lowest price out there. Pricing is really about how you present the price and how your information on your website backs up your pricing. Okay. All of these things will drive simplicity. And it's really what customers want. We've seen it for years in our user testing.
Now, how is it when we talk simplicity? I mean, obviously, we're looking at things. There's been the battle of the search engines that have happened over the last 20 years here since the internet's really been picking up.
Right.
And do folks even remember Alta Vista? I mean,
right.
That's one of the big questions. I remember that came out because that was touted as like the ultimate search engine.
That's right.
And now it's Google. And when you go to google.com, what do you see?
Exactly. And the thing about Google, and the reason that Google is such an important topic in the power of simplicity, is they were really the leaders in simplicity. I mean, you look at their search engine, it's still that way today. It's one line and it's one box. You enter in that box, you hit go, and you get your results. You get your needs met. But Google has done much more than just drive their own user interface and drive simplicity. They have really created this concept of how you interact with Google being part of your brand. And if you're not displaying on page 1 of Google for the terms that are appropriate for you in your marketplace, you're not simple. You're difficult because people can't find you and they can't navigate through those options on page 1 of Google. That you're not perceived then as being simple. And in a lot of ways, that Google search result is now the definition of your brand. And we've talked about this in other podcasts as far as what your meta description is, your URL, the key messaging on your website. All this ties together. And if you can't then measure all of this through what you do in Google, through Google Analytics and so forth, then it's not going to have the value as well. And that's really how the power of Google is driving simplicity.
Well, how is that going now? How is that driving prospecting though? Because that's a big thing. That's a huge thing, obviously, for salespeople in the sales departments. Doesn't matter whether you're a service-based business or a product-based business. Prospecting is really it. Where are you going to find your prospects? How is Google helping that or hindering that?
Let's imagine that 70% of website searchers go to Google to find what they want, and so millions and millions of people every day go to Google to find what they want. That has now become their most easiest, convenient, and simple path to get information. Compare that with having to deal with a cold call on the phone or calling somebody that they have no idea who that person is and starting a conversation and starting to build trust. Prospecting has really, in a lot of ways, evolved into searches on Google. And that is where it's all driven. And we talked about this in a previous podcast, that things are driven by the consumer now. The choices are made by your customer, and that choice starts on Google, and that has changed prospecting.
Well, what about the market segments? I mean, how is that changing?
Absolutely. So when you look about making your life simple and less complex, you look about hanging out with a group of folks that are similar to you.
Like we're hanging out right now?
Like we're hanging out
on a Google Hangout?
or following a set of companies or a set of things that interest you. And that makes your life simple. So if you have 101 different options that you can take down your path, whatever path that might be, your life's a lot easier if you already have one or two of those focused out. So as a marketing person, you want people to be that follower. You want people to follow you in that way. That's another thing that drives simplicity and ease of use. And the nice thing about the internet and the web in general is that you can find more than enough people that have this similar interest or have the similar desires or wants that your product offers to build a whole company around that. And that's why you can see, these social media networks like say even a Twitter or a Pinterest or other folks like that or the companies like that. They only need about 10 million users and they are wildly successful. And they can ignore all the other users. Well, it's very similar for your company as well. So building loyal followers makes things easier and more simple for your potential customers.
Well, there's a big thing that always comes up, of course, is cost on the internet and online. And
yes.
So the big thing that keeps going around, and especially with me being in the meetings industry, the big thing is what will people pay for from a content standpoint, because everything now is moving online. So all of the meetings are now being broadcast online,
yes.
Which now starts begging the question of, well, is that going to cannibalize? Is the online portion going to cannibalize our face-to-face meeting?
Yeah, one of the things we hear often from clients is, well, if I put that out on my website, then people are just going to steal that idea and make money from it, or competitors are going to get that idea and they're going to outcompete me.
Well, but you make a point there on when you say that is it's the same thing as the meetings. It's the same thing when you start looking at it. It's like, okay, where else can I get that information for free? And the big conversation comes down to is the information that you're giving out, is it available somewhere else for free? And most likely, I think with Google, I have yet to see anything that I cannot find through Google or find online for free. Now, that being said, an example, I go back to like Tony Robbins. Okay, Tony Robbins goes out, and for those of you who have not heard of Tony Robbins, he's a motivational speaker that's been around for years. However, what he's done is he's just repackaged information that's freely available in the public domain. He's gone through and taken P.T. Barnum and Napoleon Hill and Og Mandino and taken all these and put everything together in one easy to digest thing. So he's created a new product based on a need from things that were available for free. So looking at Google, you're expecting things for free. You're expecting things online to be free to be able to get you to a point where you want more, and that's where the monetization comes in.
Absolutely, and there's really a new definition of free, and in fact, folks that are growing up in younger generations now, their definition of free is very different from other generations, and it all really started with downloadable music, and so forth. And the concept of sharing now is very, very different than it used to be. So your whole business model has to change based on that definition of free. And what I tell people to do is look at the upside gain versus the downside risk. And in almost every case, the upside gain is a lot better than the downside risk. For example, if you put content or information on your website that helps people do their job better, absolutely, competitors can get that. Absolutely, people can take that information and not hire you. That's a downside loss. What's the upside gain? The upside gain is new customers, new clients, business growth, segmenting your followers like we just talked about.
Thought leadership strategies.
Thought leadership is
absolutely huge, because what it does is it sets you apart as the expert. And the people that I'm finding that are in, let's call it the meetings industry, and people who are speaking on subjects are getting there because of the fact of their experience online, because what they're doing is putting everything out for free.
Yes.
Chris Brogan, you think of a lot of the bloggers,
a lot of the bloggers guys,
and folks, guess what? They put out information for free. Now they're getting paid because they published books based on their blog posts, and they go and speak about things that they give away for free on the internet.
Well, they get hired. They get hired by people that come and say, do for me what you did for yourself, or do for my company what you did for yourself. So really, and the bottom line of all this is that there's a new definition of free, and really that new definition of free is that free should be your competitive advantage. And you do that through content and through getting your message out there.
And the other part is we talked about like you mentioned this generation is expecting free.
Right.
What we miss is definitely our generation and generations before us. We have an idea of privacy, and of course this is a totally different podcast too. But I wanted to bring this up because what's happening is the reason things are free is because we're giving away information. We're trading our personal information and allowing ourselves to be marketed to in exchange for things for free. Prime examples are like Google+, Facebook. You can go down any social network. All of that information, you agree when you sign up to allow them to track your information. What do you do so they can serve up advertising based on what your preferences are?
Absolutely, that's free. So that's not so much free as a competitive advantage. That's free as a business model.
But that's free as a business model, and it's
also comes a little risky to do that.
But it does come across that that's what it is. Is knowing the reason we feel that way, and a lot of the upcoming generations feel that way is because that's what they're used to. They're used to the free business as a business model instead of free as that. Content, but back to the content strategies, that is it. As I've found that content marketing is so huge, that's where it is give away content for free, prove yourself as a thought leader in the industry, and that's how you thrive. That becomes your competitive advantages. Well, we hire Intuitive Websites because they teach us online. We can go and watch this and listen to the podcast for free, and we get all that information. Can we go do it ourselves? Yes, we can. And maybe we do it for ourselves for a little bit, and then we go, hey, you know what? This is really a pain. This is hard to do on our own. Maybe I should give Tom a call over to Intuitive Websites and see what's going on and see how he can help me. Well, now we've turned somebody into a listener that might have been listening to these podcasts for the last 6 years, says, you know what? Maybe I need some professional help here. And who gets the call? The person who has the most thought leadership is the expert in the field.
That's right. That's right.
So, going into the next thing is simplicity. I mean, we're getting inundated now with all these different devices. Beforehand, Tom and I were talking about the new iPad Mini or Mini iPad, or what is it, the iPad Mini now?
iPad Mini, yes.
And all these different mobile devices that are out. How do you simplify things via mobile? Because a lot of the things that I've seen is you have a website, then you have a mobile version, and the mobile version usually eliminates 90% of the functionality. I've run into it personally when I fly, airline applications, trying to check into flights and things like that. The functionality's not there, and it starts want to bang my head against the mobile website. How do we do mobile marketing and mobile websites simply as well?
The key thing to understand is that simplicity and convenience go hand in hand. And convenience right now is I want it when I want it, and that means that they want it on their mobile device, on their iPhone, their iPad generally, and now with the new iPad minis that are coming out. The important thing here for marketers to know is that their content's going to be displayed on these small devices, and to track it in Google Analytics, we see clients now approaching 20 to 25% of their traffic coming from mobile devices, and it's growing. It's not getting less. I think we might be heading toward a time in the future where mobile devices actually outpace use of laptops, and we'll see if they're certainly growing faster than laptops.
Well, and that's the trend. The trend's been going that way. I've been reading a bunch of the trends that say mobile devices will be the majority here in the next maybe 2 years.
And they force you to keep it simple because you don't have enough screen space to add 101 things. So it's a very important part of this trend.
Well, how do we, one of the things that we talked about before, is especially in user testing, is the 10 out of 10 rule.
Right, and this is a good place to kind of wrap up this idea of simplicity. We talked about Google, loyal followers, free as a competitive advantage, mobile marketing, and finally the 10 out of 10 rule brings us all together because this is the rule that says that if 10 people come to your website or are exposed to your message or content, all 10 of those people should understand it, at least in its most basic form. And they should understand what you do and the value you provide. If they want to read deeper, they might get lost in deeper content or deeper knowledge. But at least on the outside, they should be able to understand what it is you do. That makes things simple for people. It also makes it very easy for them to refer you to others. And so we definitely think that, to have a very clear 10 out of 10 understanding of the voice of your brand and of all your content and messaging.
So, Tom, what are the key action items for all of our listeners and viewers this time around?
We hope we have viewers, and absolutely. I think one of the key action items here is to take the content we've just talked about and apply it to your business and find out how you can drive conversions and convenience and customer satisfaction from these simple processes. I think absolutely do user testing and absolutely get quick feedback from your target market. Ask them, how can I make this more simple? What are the top 3 things you want to know about my business or my company? Keep in mind that all web marketing strategies are driven by ease of use today. And we started with the Harvard Business Review article. That's a key indicator. It's the number one driver of conversions and sales. And then finally, read the Harvard Business Review article. We'll post it on our website and get a sense of how you can start to integrate this into your marketing plan.
Well, folks, thanks so much for joining us for the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast and now Google Hangout on Air. Be sure to connect with us. If there's a topic you'd like to see Tom and I cover, make sure you send us an email at info@intuitivewebsites.com. We'll take a look at that and see if we can't squeeze it in one of our podcasts. Thank you so much for joining us this time for our first Google Hangout on Air. Thanks.
This has been an Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. For more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitiveblog.com. If you have a website you would like us to review or an issue you would like to see covered in future podcasts, email us at info@intuitivewebsites.com.